Welcome to Mind Set in Stone podcasts, where we dive deep into the most compelling books on the shelf. Join hosts Dave and Poppy as they uncover the stories, themes, and ideas that shape our understanding and inspire curiosity. Get ready to explore the big ideas that leave a lasting impact. Let's get started.
Welcome to the Mind Set in Stone podcast. Today we're taking a deep dive into a really foundational book, Simon Sinek's Start With Why.
It's one of those books that can genuinely shift your perspective, isn't it?
Absolutely. Our mission here is to really unpack the core insights, figure out what truly inspires action, what builds that lasting success, not just in business, but, in life generally.
Yeah, exploring why some people, some organizations just seem to thrive while others kind of stumble.
Exactly. And we want to pull out practical, actionable stuff. Takeaways that can help you lead with more purpose, build better connections, maybe find a bit more fulfillment.
So get ready to maybe rethink a few things and discover the power of starting with your WHY.
It's a big idea.
Yeah.
Sinek really challenges us, doesn't he? To look past the surface, past what we think drives success.
He does. He argues we make a lot of assumptions about motivation, sort of believing that if we just do certain things, we'll get the outcomes we want without really asking why we're doing them in the first place.
And he kicks things off by describing this world that doesn't start with WHY. A world, as he puts it, dominated by manipulations. Can you unpack that a bit? Why start there?
Well, it sets the stage, really. He argues that often we're working with incomplete information, and that pushes us towards, quick fixes instead of tackling the real root issues.
Okay.
He uses this really vivid story and anecdote about American versus Japanese car manufacturing.
The rubber mallet story, right. That one really sticks with you.
It does. So the American assembly lines, early on, they'd sometimes have a guy right at the end, his job, literally tapping the car doors with a rubber mallet to make sure they fit snug before the car went out. That was the fix.
Just hammer it till it fits. A very direct approach.
Very direct, and the contrast is stark. American execs go over to Japan checking out their processes, and they notice there's no mallet guy.
Right.
So they ask the Japanese engineers, okay, so at what point do you make sure the door fits perfectly? And the answer was so simple but profound. We make sure it fits when we design it.
Wow. That hits differently, doesn't it? One is totally reactive, fix the symptom at the end. The other is proactive, intentional, design it right from the start.
Exactly. If something didn't fit, the Japanese approach understood it wasn't a problem at the end of the line. It was a flaw in a decision made way back at the beginning.
And Sinek uses this as a broader metaphor, right? Not just about cars.
Absolutely. It extends to how lots of people and organizations lead. They use these short-term tactics, these metaphorical mallets, to get results quickly.
But the solutions aren't really solid.
Often not. They can be structurally unsound, unsustainable, and honestly, pretty inefficient long-term, like building a house on a shaky foundation because you rushed the planning.
It really makes you think, how often are we hammering doors in our own lives? At work, maybe. Just reacting, patching things up, instead of designing for the right fit from the get-go by understanding our real intention.
It's a great question to ask ourselves. And these mallets, these reactive fixes, they often show up as what Sinek calls carrots and sticks, or more broadly, manipulations.
Okay, carrots and sticks, that sounds familiar.
Right. He makes this compelling case that most businesses, most leaders, frankly, motivate people through these manipulations, consciously or not through genuine inspiration.
And they work, right, at least for a bit.
Oh, absolutely. They can definitely deliver immediate results. But, and this is the key point, they don't build real loyalty, not the deep, lasting kind of success.
It feels a bit uncomfortable, maybe, to admit how common these tactics are. But Sinek says we need to understand them first.
Exactly. You have to diagnose the problem before you can find a better solution. Understanding these manipulations is step one.
Okay, so what are some of the big ones he points out? And what's the hidden cost?
He outlines several common ones. Let's start with price. Super common, dropping prices to boost sales.
Yeah, we see that constantly. Yeah. Sales, discounts.
Every day, right. Retail sales, service firms cutting fees to win a big project. It works in the short term, gets you a bump. But it hammers your profit margins. And maybe worse, it trains customers to just wait for the next discount. It devalues what you offer.
So loyalty goes out the window if a competitor just undercuts you.
Precisely. It becomes a race to the bottom, driven purely by price, not value or belief.
Okay, what's next? Promotions.
Yep. Promotions, things like buy one, get one free, or rebates. And Sinek gets into some, let's say, cynical aspects here. He talks about breakage and slippage.
Breakage and slippage, what are those?
Breakage is basically the percentage of people who don't actually redeem the promotion, so they end up paying full price anyway. Rebates are a classic example. They often make the process deliberately complicated.
Like needing the original receipt, the barcode, filling out a form, mailing it in?
Exactly. All designed to increase the chance you'll mess up or just not bother. And slippage is even worse. That's when people don't even try to claim the rebate, or they get the check and never cash it.
Wow. And companies actually rely on that.
Sinek points out that, incredibly, retailers often factor this breakage and slippage into their profitability models. They're literally counting on customers failing to follow through.
That doesn't exactly screen customer relationship, does it? Feels very transactional.
Deeply transactional. It highlights the lack of any shared purpose beyond the immediate exchange. Then there's fear, another big manipulator.
Ah, yes. The if you don't do this, something bad will happen approach.
You got it. Classic anti-drug ads. This is your brain on drugs. Public service ads about buckling up, child safety seats. The insurance industry often uses it too. Get covered before it's too late.
Fear definitely gets attention. It's primal.
It is. It taps into our survival instincts, makes us act quickly. But like you said, it doesn't build anything positive long term.
Right. It's about avoiding a negative, not striving for a positive. Creates a relationship based on anxiety, not trust.
Exactly. It's inherently transactional. You're buying protection, not joining a cause.
Okay, what else is in the manipulation toolbox?
Aspirational messages. These tap into our hopes and desires, wanting to be richer, healthier, more successful, part of the in crowd.
Like the gym membership rush every January.
Perfect example. New Year's resolutions, everyone wants to get fit. Or think about all the diet trends promising a transformation, a new you.
They definitely spur that initial action.
They do, but Sinek notes the motivation often fades. Gym attendance drops off by February, the diet gets abandoned. So the seller gets a short-term gain, but the buyer often doesn't get lasting change or real fulfillment. It's feeding a desire, not sparking a deep internal commitment.
And the last one? Novelty.
Yeah, novelty, which often gets dressed up and called innovation, just constantly adding new features, releasing slightly different versions.
Like the Motorola RAZR phone back in the day. Huge hit, then fizzled out.
Exactly. It was cool and new, but the novelty wore off because there wasn't a deeper why attached. Or think about the toothpaste aisle now. Sinek mentions Colgate having, 32 different variants at one point, each adding some new bell or whistle.
It's feature overload. How do you even choose?
You often can't, reasonably. It becomes exhausting. Products start to feel like commodities with slightly different packaging, and this, Sinek contrasts with Apple's iPhone. Yes, it had new tech, but it was perceived as truly innovative because it connected back to their core WHY of challenging the status quo, not just the what of its features.
Wow. Price, promotions, fear, aspirations, novelty.
Yeah.
It's like a constant barrage trying to push our buttons without actually connecting with us.
Pretty much. And understanding this landscape of manipulation is crucial before we can appreciate the alternative.
And the cost seems huge. Not just money, but trust erodes. You mentioned the 2008 banking crisis earlier.
Yeah, that's a powerful large-scale example. Sinek argues it was heavily fueled by manipulation specifically, employee bonuses tied to short-term gains. It incentivized risky, short-sighted decisions.
Loyalty wasn't part of the equation.
Not really. It fostered an every-man-for-himself culture. Individual gain trumped long-term stability or collective well-being, which leads to the big question. If this manipulation-based approach is so flawed and costly, what's the alternative? What actually works long-term?
Okay, perfect transition.
Yeah.
Because this is where Sinek introduces his core concept, the thing he's famous for. The golden circle, this is the alternative, right?
Exactly. It's his model for how truly inspiring leaders and organizations operate. And the key is they think, act, and communicate in the reverse order of everyone else. They start with WHY.
Can you visualize that for us, the golden circle?
Sure. Imagine 3 concentric circles, like a target. Right in the bullseye, the center, is WHY. This is your purpose, your cause, your core belief. Why does your organization exist? Why do you get out of bed?
Okay, WHY is the core. What's the next ring out?
The middle ring is HIW. These are your guiding principles, your values, the specific actions you take to bring your WHY to life, how you do things differently.
And the outer ring?
The outermost ring is what? This is the most tangible part of it. The products you sell, the services you offer, the job function you perform, what you actually do.
WHY, how to, what? Center, middle, outside. Got it. And most companies communicate the wrong way around.
That's Sinek's argument. Most communicate from the outside in. They start with what?
Like, here's our new laptop. It has this processor, this much RAM, this screen size. It's great. Buy it.
Exactly. Or, we're a law firm. We have top lawyers from the best schools. We handle big cases for big clients. Hire us. They lead with what they do, maybe explain how they're different or better, and then ask for the sale or support.
And that appeals to the logical part of our brain.
Primarily, yes. It gives us facts and figures. But as we saw with manipulations, facts alone don't breed deep loyalty.
So inspiring communication flips it, inside out.
Right. It starts with WHY. Why do we exist? Then it moves to how we do what we do, our unique approach or values. And finally, it lands on what we offer, which serves as the tangible proof of our WHY.
And the classic example is Apple. How does their communication fit this model?
Sinek famously breaks it down. Apple doesn't start with, we make great computers. They start with their WIY. Everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently.
Okay, that's the core belief. Then the HRW.
The way we challenge the status quo is by making our products beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. That's their guiding principle, their HOW.
And finally, the what.
We just happen to make great computers. See how the computer is presented almost as a byproduct, the proof of their belief, rather than the starting point?
Yeah, that lands totally differently. It feels less like a sales pitch and more like a statement of identity.
Precisely. And Sinek argues this isn't just clever marketing. It connects to something much deeper, something fundamental about how we humans actually make decisions. It taps into our biology.
Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting for me. It's not just a business model. It's rooted in our brains. Explain that connection.
Yeah, this is fascinating. Sinek maps the golden circle directly onto the structure of the human brain. Our brain has, broadly speaking, layers that correspond to these circles.
Okay.
The outermost part, the newest evolutionarily, is the neocortex. This part is responsible for all our rational and analytical thought, and crucially, for language.
So the neocortex handles the what? The facts, figures, features.
Exactly. It can process all that information, the specs on the laptop, the gas mileage of the car.
And the inner parts of the brain.
Deeper inside, we have the limbic brain. This system is responsible for all our feelings, like trust and loyalty. It's also responsible for all human behavior, all decision-making.
So the limbic brain handles the WHY and the HW, the purpose and the values.
That's the connection Sinek makes, and here's the critical piece. The limbic brain has no capacity for language.
No language. So it feels things, drive behavior, but it can't put words to it.
Exactly. It's where gut feelings come from. You might have a strong feeling about a decision, a sense that something is right or wrong, but you can't easily articulate why you feel that way. Your limbic brain is making the call.
Wow. Okay, so what does this brain structure mean for communication and decision-making?
It has huge implications. When companies communicate from the outside in, what first, they're speaking primarily to the rational neocortex. People can understand the features and benefits on an intellectual level.
Yes, this car has great safety ratings. That makes logical sense.
Right. But it doesn't directly engage the decision-making limbic brain. So it might not feel right. It doesn't necessarily drive behavior or build that deep sense of loyalty. You understand it, but you aren't necessarily moved by it.
But when communication starts from the inside out, WHY first.
It speaks directly to the limbic brain, the part that controls decisions. It taps into our emotions, our sense of trust and belonging, before the rational brain starts analyzing the features.
So you get that gut feeling first. This feels right. I trust this.
Precisely. It creates an emotional connection, a sense of alignment. The product or service then serves as the rational justification for the feeling the WHY already created.
Sinek mentions neuroscientist Richard Restack, right, about gut decisions.
Yes. Restack talks about how trying too hard to make purely rational decisions can lead to overthinking, making the process slower and sometimes yielding lower quality choices. Gut decisions driven by the limbic brain are often faster and, surprisingly, can be better. It's that trust your gut idea grounded in neuroscience.
You see this all the time with big purchases, don't you? Like buying a house or even a TV. You do all the research, compare the specs.
Hours of research, spreadsheets maybe.
Totally.
Yeah.
But often the final choice comes down to a feeling about one option over another, even if the specs are nearly identical. Your limbic brain made the real choice, and the neocortex just found the reasons to justify it afterwards.
Absolutely. And this explains the fierce loyalty of, say, Apple users. Rationally, you could argue PCs are cheaper or offer more software options, but Apple starts with WHY challenging the status quo.
And people who identify with that WHY feel a connection.
Exactly. They feel Apple represents their values. So they'll pay more, wait in line, overlook flaws, because buying Apple products becomes a way to express their own identity. The loyalty comes from that deep, limbic, feeling-based connection to the WHY.
And this ties into that fundamental human need. Sinek talks about the need to belong.
Yes, it's deeply ingrained. We're social animals, wired to seek out and belong to groups, tribes that share our values and beliefs. It's a survival mechanism.
Like feeling an instant bond with someone from your hometown when you're traveling far away.
Right. There's an immediate sense of shared identity, shared understanding, even if you know nothing else about them. When a company clearly communicates its WHY and it resonates with your WHY, you feel like you belong to their tribe.
So the product becomes more than just a thing. It's a symbol of those shared values.
Exactly. Sinek uses the example of Dell trying to sell MP3 players. It just felt off. Dell's WHY was about efficient computer manufacturing, not music or lifestyle. It didn't align.
But Apple selling a YouTube-branded iPod felt right.
It made sense because both Apple and U2 at the time were seen as challenging norms, pushing boundaries. Their WHYs seemed aligned. A Celine Dion iPod, Sinek suggests, wouldn't have worked the same way for Apple's core audience, even though she sold millions of records, because her brand's perceived WHY didn't match Apple's.
This is fascinating. It's not just about appealing to what we think we want, but connecting with what our deeper emotional brain feels is right, what aligns with our sense of self and belonging.
You've nailed it. That's the foundation. Understanding the golden circle and its link to our biology is step one. But Sinek is clear. Knowing your WHY isn't enough. You have to bring it to life.
Right, which leads to the next part, making it real. He talks about 3 key elements needed for that, doesn't he?
He does. He calls them the 3 pillars for sustaining the golden circle in practice. Clarity of WHY, discipline of HLU, and consistency of what?
Okay, let's take those one by one. Clarity of WHY. That seems straightforward. You need to actually know your purpose, your belief.
Right. What's your fundamental reason for being? Sinek suggests this is often the simplest part, maybe because it's already there, deep down, it just needs to be articulated.
But then comes discipline of HLW. It's about sticking to your values and principles, right? The actions that support the WHY.
Exactly. This is where the rubber meets the road, and Sinek says it's often the hardest part. It requires conscious effort and commitment to live your values, especially when it's difficult or inconvenient.
And this connects to a really practical takeaway you mentioned earlier, about values as verbs, not nouns.
Yes. This is practical takeaway number 1. Articulate your values as verbs. So many companies have values like integrity, innovation, respect, plastered on a wall.
Yeah, they sound nice, but what do they actually mean day to day?
Exactly. They're nouns, abstract concepts. You can't really measure integrity, but if you phrase it as a verb, like always do the right thing, suddenly it's actionable.
Or instead of innovation, maybe look at problems from a different angle or constantly seek better ways.
Precisely. Verbs tell people how to behave. They're teachable, measurable. You can build systems, processes, even reward structures around them. It makes the HLW tangible and holds people accountable.
Think back to those complicated rebate programs. What value as a verb were they living? Probably not. Make things easy for our customers.
Definitely not. It highlights the disconnect, which brings us to the third pillar. Consistency of what?
So this is about ensuring everything you actually do, the products, the services, the marketing, the policies, aligns with and proves your WHY and how W.
Right. Your whats must be consistent proof of your beliefs. If you say your WHY is empowering individuals, but your products are confusing and your customer service is unhelpful, there's a massive inconsistency. Trust breaks down.
So it's clarity, discipline, consistency. You need all 3 working together.
You do, and it raises that critical question. How many organizations say they have values but don't demonstrate the discipline or consistency? That's where the WHY becomes just marketing fluff.
To help maintain that consistency, Sinek offers a really useful tool, almost a mental filter. He calls it the celery test.
Ah, yes, the celery test. It's a great analogy for filtering decisions through your WHY.
How does it work?
Imagine you go to a dinner party and everyone's giving you well-meaning advice for your business or your life. Someone says, you absolutely need to get into chocolate cake. Everyone loves it.
Okay, chocolate cake. Sounds good.
Someone else pulls you aside. No, no, rice milk. That's the future. Look at the trends. Then another person insists, Oreo cookies. Trust me, a massive market. And finally, someone whispers, celery. Seriously, get some celery.
So you've got all this conflicting but maybe good advice. What do you do?
Well, if you don't have a clear WHY, you might try a bit of everything. You go to the supermarket and buy some Oreos, some rice milk, maybe a slice of cake, and yeah, some celery. Your shopping cart is a random mix.
Doesn't seem very strategic.
Not at all. But, Sinek says, what if your WHY is, for example, to only do things that are healthy and good for the body?
Ah, okay. A clear filter.
Exactly. Now, when you go to the supermarket with that WHY filter, you look at the advice differently. Chocolate cake? Nope. Oreos? Definitely not. Rice milk? Maybe. If it fits your definition of healthy? Celery? Yes, absolutely.
So you only buy the things that align with your core belief.
Yeah.
The what's, rice milk, celery, become tangible proof of your WHY health.
Precisely. It provides clarity, efficiency, and authenticity. People looking at your shopping cart, your actions, your products, can instantly get a sense of what you believe in because everything aligns.
He uses a real-world example of this failing, right? The Volkswagen Phaeton.
Yes, a fascinating case study. Back in 2004, VW launched this incredibly luxurious high-tech car, the Phaeton. We're talking $70,000, top-of-the-line features, critically acclaimed engineering.
It sounds impressive. So what went wrong?
It bombed. Very few people bought it because Volkswagen's established WHY, their identity for decades was being the people's car.
Yeah.
Das Auto. Reliable, affordable quality for the masses.
And a $70,000 luxury sedan didn't exactly fit that image.
Not at all. It was completely inconsistent with their known WHY. It failed the celery test for VW. People might have admired the car objectively, but it didn't feel right coming from Volkswagen. It didn't align with what they believed VW stood for.
But other mainstream brands managed to launch luxury lines like Toyota with Lexus or Honda with Acura. How did they do it?
Crucially, they created separate brands with their own distinct WHYs. They didn't try to sell a $60,000 car with a Toyota badge on it. They understood that the luxury offering needed its own identity, its own celery test, separate from the core brand's WHY.
That makes perfect sense. Which leads us nicely into our second practical takeaway.
Right. Practical takeaway number 2. Conduct your own celery test regularly. Before making any significant decision, launching a product, forming a partnership, taking on a project, even making a personal commitment, pause and ask, does this align with my core WHY?
Is this consistent with what I truly believe and how I operate?
Exactly. If the answer is no, then no matter how tempting or popular the idea seems, like the chocolate cake or Oreos, it might be good advice for someone else, but it's probably not the right move for you. It helps maintain that crucial consistency.
Okay, so we've seen the pitfalls of manipulation and the power of starting with WHY, hey, should W, and what, filtered through the celery test. Now let's talk about building a following, leadership, and trust.
Right. Sinek draws a clear line here. Manipulations might prod our limbic brain using fear or desire for status, getting a short-term reaction. But inspiration, starting with WHY, connects on a much deeper level.
How so?
Inspiration aligns with our own sense of identity, our own values. When a company's WHY resonates with us, supporting them or buying their products becomes less about the company and more about us. It's a statement about who we are and what we believe.
It's like we're using their what as a symbol to express our own WHY to the world.
Precisely. And that's why inspired customers or followers exhibit such strong loyalty. They're willing to pay a premium, like Apple users, or endure inconvenience, like Harley-Davidson owners getting tattoos of the logo.
It's not just about the bike or the computer anymore. It's about belonging to that tribe, proving their own beliefs.
Exactly. This kind of inspiration is the foundation for building genuine trust. Trust emerges naturally when we perceive that others share our values and beliefs. It's what allows us to form strong cultures and communities.
Sinek relates this back to our evolutionary success, right? The caveman analogy.
Yeah, it's a simple but powerful idea. We succeeded as a species not because we were the strongest, but because we could form cultures, groups built on shared values and trust. This trust allowed early humans to cooperate, to specialize. Someone could go hunting, trusting others back in the cave to protect their family and resources.
That trust enabled progress and security.
Absolutely. And that same dynamic plays out in organizations. We are naturally drawn to leaders and groups where we feel our values are shared, where we feel trust.
Which is why Sinek hammers home the point about hiring for WHY, not just for skills or experience, the what.
Yes, This is crucial for building a strong, trust-based culture. And he uses the incredible story of Ernest Shackleton's Antarctic expedition to illustrate this.
Oh, the famous newspaper ad? That's an amazing example.
Isn't it? In 1913, Shackleton supposedly placed an ad. The exact wording is debated, but the essence is this. Men wanted for hazardous journey. Small wages, bitter cold, long months of complete darkness, constant danger, safe return doubtful, honor and recognition in case of success.
It sounds like the worst job description ever. Who would possibly apply?
Exactly. Only people whose personal WHY aligned perfectly with the mission. People driven by adventure, by the challenge, by the potential for honor despite the immense risk. He wasn't looking for skills. He was looking for belief, for resilience rooted in purpose.
And the result was a crew that survived unbelievable hardship together.
Because they were united by a shared WHY from the very beginning. They self-selected based on the cause. This leads directly to our third practical takeaway. Reframe your job descriptions. Don't just list tasks, skills, and required experience, the whats. Start by articulating the company's WHY, the mission, the culture. Describe the kind of person, the kind of believer who would thrive there.
So you attract people who are passionate about the cause, not just qualified for the job.
Precisely. You attract people who want to be part of your tribe. Southwest Airlines is famous for this. Herb Kelleher, the founder, famously said, "You don't hire for skills, you hire for attitude. You can always teach skills."
Their WHY was about giving people freedom to fly, making air travel accessible and fun. They hired for personality that fit that WHY.
Exactly. And you see this in turnaround stories, too. Gordon Bethune taking over Continental Airlines when it was failing.
Right. He focused on the employees first, didn't he? Building trust internally.
He did. He understood that if the employees didn't trust management, didn't feel valued, didn't feel the WHY, they couldn't possibly deliver a good experience to customers. He started by rebuilding trust from the inside out.
So it really is about building a tribe. People united by belief, not just by tasks.
Absolutely. Which connects to another powerful concept Sinek uses. Give him a cathedral.
Ah, the stonemason story.
It perfectly illustrates the difference purpose makes. You ask the first stonemason, "What are you doing?" He sighs, "I'm building a wall. It's tedious work, heavy stones, long days, but hey, it pays the bills." He sees only the what.
Okay, just a job.
Then you ask the second stonemason, doing the exact same task, the same question. He looks up, maybe wipes his brow, and says with pride, "I'm building a cathedral."
Same work, totally different perspective. He sees the WHY.
Exactly. He understands how his task, laying these stones, contributes to a larger, meaningful purpose. His motivation, his engagement, his fulfillment are on a completely different level.
This gives us another clear action step.
Yes. Practical takeaway number 4. Connect daily tasks to a larger purpose. Whether it's for yourself or your team, constantly help people see the cathedral they're building, not just the wall they're working on today.
How does my work today contribute to the bigger mission, the overall WHY?
Making that connection explicit can transform engagement and make even mundane tasks feel meaningful. It fosters that sense of contributing to something bigger than oneself.
Okay, so we've got the WHY, the HRW, the what, the importance of trust, hiring for attitude, seeing the cathedral. How does this all play out when trying to spread an idea or launch something new? Sinek connects this to the tipping point idea, right?
He does. He uses Everett Rogers' law of diffusion of innovations to explain how ideas spread and why starting with WHY is crucial for reaching mass adoption.
The bell curve of adoption. Can you walk us through that?
Sure. Imagine a bell curve representing the market. On the far left, you have the innovators, about 2.5% of the population. These are the folks who love new things just because they're new. They're intrigued by fundamental shifts, willing to take risks.
Okay, the pioneers. Who's next?
Next come the early adopters, about 13.5%. These people are also comfortable with new ideas, but they're more intuitive than the innovators. They rely on their gut feeling. They recognize the potential value early and are willing to tolerate imperfections or pay a premium to be among the first if the idea aligns with their WHY.
These are the people lining up for the first iPhone or buying bleeding-edge tech.
Exactly. They buy based on what they believe about the world and themselves, and they see the new product as reflecting that belief. They're crucial.
Then we hit the middle of the curve.
Yep. Then you have the early majority, 34%, and the
Yeah.
late majority, 34%. These groups are more pragmatic, more cautious. The early majority won't try something until someone else they trust, usually an early adopter, has tried it and recommended it. The late majority is even more skeptical.
And finally, the laggards.
Right, the laggards, 16% on the far right. They're resistant to change, often only adopting something when they absolutely have to.
So what's the tipping point in this model?
The key insight from the law of diffusion is that you cannot achieve mass market success, reaching the early and late majority, until you first convince the innovators and early adopters. You need to penetrate about 15–18% of the market.
That's the gap you have to cross.
Exactly. The majority won't try something just based on its features or rational benefits. They wait for the early adopters, the ones they trust, to vouch for it first. The WHY needs to resonate with those first 15–18% to create the momentum.
Sinek uses TiVo as a cautionary tale here, doesn't he?
A perfect example of getting this wrong. TiVo had revolutionary technology back then, pausing live TV, skipping commercials, learning your preferences. Objectively amazing features, the what was great.
So why did it struggle commercially?
Because their marketing strategy completely ignored the law of diffusion. They went straight to the mass market, the majorities, talking about what it did. It pauses live TV, it skips commercials.
They led with the features.
They did. And the pragmatic majority just didn't get why they needed it. It seemed complicated, maybe unnecessary. They didn't have friends or trusted sources raving about it yet. TiVo failed to capture the imagination of the early adopters by starting with WHY.
What should they have done, according to Sinek?
They should have started with WHY, targeting the early adopters. Maybe something like, if you're the kind of person who believes you should have total control over every aspect of your life, boy, do we have a product for you.
Start with the belief, the identity.
Exactly. It gives you control. It lets you watch TV on your terms. And here's how. It pauses live TV, skips commercials. Now the features become proof of the WHY, serving the belief system of those early groups.
It's fascinating how that subtle shift in communication could have made such a difference. People TiVo shows now, but usually not on an actual TiVo box.
Right. The concept won, but the company largely didn't because they failed to build that initial movement by starting with WHY and inspiring the crucial early market segments.
Which leads us to another clear takeaway.
Yes. Practical takeaway number 5. When launching new ideas, start with WHY and target the innovators and early adopters. Focus your initial message on the belief, the purpose. These are the people who will get it intuitively, who will become your passionate advocates and help you cross the chasm to the mainstream market. They need to believe first.
It all seems so clear when you lay it out like this. Start with why. Be disciplined, be consistent, inspire trust, build a tribe, target the believers. But Sinek adds a warning, doesn't he? About success itself being a challenge.
He does. It's a really important, almost poignant part of the book. He talks about how, paradoxically, the biggest challenge often comes after you achieve success. As organizations grow, as they achieve more tangible results, more sales, bigger market share, more employees, the whats, it's easy to lose sight of the original founding purpose, the initial WHY that got everything started. Sinek calls this phenomenon the split.
Between achievement and success.
Exactly. He makes a crucial distinction. Achievement is reaching a goal. It's tangible, measurable. Hitting a revenue target, getting a promotion, buying the yacht. It's about getting the what you wanted.
Okay. Achievement is hitting the mark. What's success then?
Success, Sinek argues, is different. It's a feeling, a state of being. It comes from understanding why you wanted the achievement in the first place. It's the sense of fulfillment, of purpose alignment.
So you can achieve a lot, make tons of money, get famous, but still not feel successful if you've lost touch with your WHY.
Precisely. The yacht is the achievement. The feeling of joy, freedom, or fulfillment you hoped it would bring. That's the success. And many people mistake the achievement for the success, leading to a feeling of emptiness despite having all the external markers.
Like climbing the mountain but forgetting why you wanted to reach the summit. The view isn't satisfying if the journey lost its meaning.
That's a perfect analogy. And this split where the WHY gets fuzzy is especially dangerous for organizations, particularly when the founder leaves.
Why is the founder's departure such a critical moment?
Because often, the founder is the living embodiment of the WHY. Their passion, their vision, their belief drove everything. If that WHY hasn't been clearly articulated, deeply embedded in the culture, and consciously passed on, the organization can drift when they leave.
He gives examples of this, right? Like Microsoft after Gates.
Yes. Sinek suggests that in the early days, Bill Gates was the WHY, the driving belief in empowering people through software to reach their potential. After he stepped back from day-to-day leadership, the focus arguably shifted more towards the what making software, hitting financial targets, and some of that original inspiring purpose felt diluted.
And Starbucks, too.
Yeah.
When Howard Schultz left the first time.
Similar story. Schultz built Starbucks around the WHY of creating a third place, a community hub between work and home. When he left, the company prioritized efficiency and growth, sometimes at the expense of the experience, like switching from ceramic mugs to paper cups to speed up service. It eroded the feeling, the WHY.
And Schultz had to come back to try and reconnect the company to that original purpose.
Exactly. He had to right the ship, as he put it. We also saw Michael Dell return to his company when it seemed to have lost its way, focusing too much on short-term metrics and missing key market shifts, suggesting a potential disconnect from its founding WHY.
It really underscores the importance of succession planning, not just finding someone with the right skills, a HOW person, but finding a leader who is genuinely inspired by and committed to the founding WHY.
Absolutely. And it also highlights the crucial partnership Sinek talks about between the WY type and the HOW type.
The visionary and the builder.
Right. You need the dreamer, the one who articulates the WHY, like Jobs, Gates, Kelleher. But you also need the practical, operational genius who can build the systems and processes to make the vision a reality, like Wozniak, Allen, or Southwest's Colleen Barrett. The WHY needs the HOW to come to life.
And putting a HOW person in charge without ensuring they deeply embrace the WHY can be disastrous. The John Scully example at Apple comes to mind.
Classic case. Jobs famously lured Scully from Pepsi with that iconic line, "Do you want to sell sugar water for the rest of your life, or do you want to come with me and change the world?" It appealed to Scully's aspiration.
But Scully was fundamentally a brilliant Ann Chowell guy, an operations expert, right?
Exactly. He didn't inherently share Apple's rebellious WHY. He ran Apple like a traditional business focused on the what? Selling computers, maximizing profit, which ultimately led to conflict and Jobs being forced out of his own company for a time. The lack of WHY alignment at the top caused a major split.
Wow. It shows how fragile that WHY can be if it's not consciously protected and nurtured, especially during growth and leadership transition.
It really does. Which brings us to another challenge. How do you measure something as intangible as WHY or HOW? Most organizations are great at measuring the what.
Yeah, sales figures, profit margins, market share, those are easy to track. But how do you measure trust or living our values?
It's harder, but Sinek argues it's essential if you want to prevent that split and keep the WHY alive. This leads to our sixth practical takeaway.
Okay, what is it?
Practical takeaway number 6. Develop metrics for your values, your HOWs. If your values are actionable verbs, you can find ways to measure if they're actually being lived.
Can you give an example of how that might work?
Sinek tells the story of Christina Harbridge, who ran a collections agency, typically an industry focused solely on the what, collecting money. But her WI was different. She valued compassion and treating people with respect.
So how did she measure that?
Instead of only measuring dollars collected, she started measuring and incentivizing things like the number of thank you cards her agents received from the people they were collecting from.
Wow. Measuring gratitude received. That's measuring the HOW, the compassionate approach.
Exactly. It made the value tangible. It created a culture where listening and empathy were rewarded, which, counterintuitively perhaps, actually led to better financial results because people were more willing to work with her agents. Measuring the HOW improved the what.
That's brilliant. Any other examples?
There's Dwayne Honore Construction. His WHY centered on family and work-life balance. He believed people should work to live, not live to work.
A common sentiment, but how did he measure it?
He implemented a system where employees clocked in and out, standard stuff. But here's the twist. If employees consistently stayed past 5:03 p.m., money was actually deducted from a shared bonus pool.
Deducted for working late. That sounds crazy.
It sounds crazy if you only measure hours worked as productivity, a what metric. But Honore was measuring his HOW, the value placed on work-life balance. He was incentivizing people to work efficiently and go home to their families, reinforcing his WHY.
And the result?
High productivity during work hours, incredibly low employee turnover, and a culture where everyone knew tangibly what the company stood for. Measuring the HOW made the WHY real and visible.
So finding creative ways to measure your values, your HOWs, is crucial for keeping the WHY from becoming just a nice poster on the wall.
It makes it accountable. It makes it part of the operational reality.
Okay, This entire journey through Sinek's ideas, understanding manipulation, embracing the golden circle, ensuring clarity, discipline, consistency, building trust, measuring what matters, it feels like it culminates in a really fundamental shift in how we view everything, especially competition.
It really does. Sinek closes with this incredibly powerful idea, illustrated by another moving story. When you compete against yourself, everyone wants to help you. When you compete against others, nobody does.
And the story is about Ben Coleman, the runner.
Yes, Ben Coleman, a high school cross-country runner who has cerebral palsy. Because of his condition, he runs much slower than everyone else. He falls often. He always finishes last. But he runs every single race. He never quits.
What's his motivation? He knows he won't win in the traditional sense.
His goal isn't to beat the other runners. His goal is to beat himself to finish the race, maybe improve his own time. His competition is internal.
And how do others react to him?
This is the beautiful part. After all the other runners finish, they don't just pack up and leave. They often turn around and go back onto the course to run alongside Ben to encourage him.
Seriously?
Yes. Sinek describes how Ben is the only runner who, when he falls, other runners might stop to help him up. He's the only one who might have dozens, sometimes 100 people running behind him, cheering him across the finish line long after everyone else is done.
Wow. Why? Why do they do that for him?
Because his WHY is so clear and so pure. He's not competing against them. He's competing with himself, striving for his personal best. That internal focus, that lack of external rivalry, inspires support, not opposition. People want to help him succeed against his own challenges.
That's an incredibly powerful metaphor for life and business, isn't it?
Absolutely. What if, instead of obsessing about beating the competition, having more features than them, a lower price than them, being better than them, we focused simply on being better than we were yesterday?
How would that change things?
Sinek suggests everything changes. Decisions become simpler, guided by our internal WHY and our desire for improvement, not by reacting to others. Loyalty deepens because people are attracted to our consistent purpose. Trust flourishes. Optimism and innovation thrive because the focus is on progress, not just parity or outdoing someone else.
Can you imagine that conversation? Someone asks, so who's your main competition? And you could genuinely answer, I don't really spend much time thinking about that.
Right. Or if they ask, why are you better than brand X? You could say, maybe we are, maybe we aren't in every single way. But I can tell you this, the work we're doing today is better than the work we were doing 6 months ago. And 6 months from now, it'll be better still. We show up every day trying to improve, trying to advance our cause, trying to inspire people.
That feels like a much more fulfilling, sustainable way to operate.
It reframes leadership, too. A leader focused on WHY doesn't need to have all the answers or be the best at everything. Their role is to create an environment where the WHY is clear, where people feel trusted and inspired, where great ideas can emerge from anyone, and where everyone is focused on contributing to that shared purpose, that collective cathedral.
It moves away from a zero-sum game of winners and losers toward a positive-sum game of continuous growth and shared purpose. What a powerful shift.
It truly is. Competing against yourself changes everything.
Wow. What an incredible journey through. Start with why. We've really covered a lot of ground, from understanding the manipulations that drive so much behavior to embracing the power of the golden circle and its roots in our own biology.
Yeah, and digging into the practicalities, the need for clarity of WHY, discipline of how W, and consistency of what, plus those key takeaways like using the celery test, hiring for attitude, and measuring your values.
And finally, landing on this profound idea of competing against ourselves, inspired by stories like Ben Coleman's. It really ties everything together.
We've explored those 6 key practical takeaways. 1. Articulate values as verbs. 2. Use the celery test for decisions. 3. Reframe job descriptions around WHY. 4. Connect daily tasks to the cathedral. 5. Target early adopters with your WHY first. 6. Develop metrics for your HOWs. Hopefully those provide some concrete starting points.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up, here's a challenge for you, our listener. Take some time to reflect. Really think about your own life, professional, personal, maybe both. What is your WHY?
What's that core purpose, cause, or belief that genuinely drives you? Beyond just making money or getting through the day, can you articulate it clearly?
And once you have a sense of it, think about how you can start communicating it. How can you lead with that WHY in your interactions, then follow with your HOWs and whats? How can you use it to inspire the people around you, maybe create more authentic connections?
Maybe just take one small step this week. Write your WHY down. Share it with a trusted friend or colleague. Try applying the celery test to one upcoming decision. Just start somewhere.
Because, as Sinek argues, starting with WHY isn't just about achieving more. It's about building a foundation for lasting success, genuine fulfillment, and maybe, just maybe, helping to inspire a slightly better world, one driven more by purpose and connection.
We hope you're leaving with fresh insights and a spark of inspiration. Remember to subscribe, leave a review, and check back for more episodes as we dive into new worlds of thought, one book at a time. Until then, keep your mind set in stone and your curiosity open. This has been a Big L Riz Media podcast, where big ideas meet lasting impressions.